this collar more.
I thought you said I should color more, and I'm like,
the fuck did I put my crayons?
What a strange goal.
No.
okay, mad.
All right. Serious question though, Madeline, on your screen. I'm not wearing a bra. Can you tell?
No. I'm not wearing one either.
Me either.
Could see things. I would like a heads up.
I see
Most
before we
likes
put it on.
ever.
Like I am not. Like whatever. We can still put it on YouTube. I just want a heads up.
we are gonna get some like unique fans on YouTube with,
You know, whatever
we're
works.
gonna get some Bullies fans.
Book club only fans.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
It's not the worst idea. So, who's got their book?
Oh, I forgot it upstairs.
Kelly, even when you've read the book, you don't have the book.
Okay, hold on. I'll go get it. It's right there. Just
Why do we keep her in here?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Sounds like Kelly's dying. Trying to get up the stairs. Like
A little out of shape.
Guys, oh my God.
Were you out of breath running up the stairs?
I had to run up and run down. The canyon is not gonna go well.
Were you like,
Like, was
No,
that
I think it's the stairs. They like make a weird noise because they're like the floating stairs.
boom, this time we're talking about every note played, which I think we all used one of our cries for the year on, except maybe Kelly.
No, I did. I teared up in public, like at work, like in front of coworkers. So.
I didn't just tear up. I cried like a baby at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really glad I was home alone because that would have been embarrassing. The dogs came over to like inspect me to make sure I was okay.
If I had been home, I probably would have cried, but like instead I was at work. So I'd read like a couple sentences and then I'd be like, and you know, like get some air going in there and then read another paragraph or so.
Yeah, I definitely read that part with when like Ross was watching TV and I got up and left the room because I'm like, he's gonna think it's odd that I'm crying during this show. But it's really the book, which might be even a little more odd.
We're all embarrassed to cry in front of our husbands.
I totally suspected it, so I just waited until Corey was gone to read it. Because that's like, this is the end. Obviously, we know what's going to happen, so.
I feel like when you
So I have to ask-
cry like a couple times a year, you don't want to like, I don't know, have it be in front of people.
Yeah. Did you guys think it was more awkward though to read this book, like the ending, the sad parts in front of your husband, or A Court of Thorns and Roses?
A Court of Thorns.
A court. Yeah.
No, this one.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think
really-
Dylan has any idea what's going on in the court. And yeah, I don't think he doesn't really ask me about it and I do most of my reading of that book at work too.
But you're on book 3, so it's not even really fair.
Oh, does it get a little worse?
So you get to book 5.
Good. All right.
So anyway, I'll do the synopsis because I picked this one for book club. All right. Every Note Played basically is about this famous pianist named Richard and his ex-wife, Karina, and they have a daughter named Grace. And they're divorced, really messy divorce. They basically hate each other. And then Richard gets ALS, which is not a spoiler because it's in the description of the book. So he gets sick and he's kind of isolated himself throughout life and definitely from his family. And so it's about understanding the disease and what it's like for someone to go through life with ALS. And then also the dynamic of, you know, how is he going to make these choices about his life and how is he going to have help? Everything that goes into that and the dynamic with his family because they're kind of on the outs. I wouldn't say he even has a good relationship with anyone, really, in the book.
His girlfriends.
But they all leave.
I think the one, didn't he release her was like, you shouldn't be around for this. And she just like, they kind of he was like, it's not fair. So.
Yeah. Okay,
No.
ratings. What would you give it? Liz, go.
I'd give it a B- because the book is good. It's well written. It's an important subject, and I'm glad I read it. But I hate being sad, and this book was so sad.
That's fair.
Would
Kelly,
not read
you
it.
gonna read it?
I give it a B, maybe a B plus. It was very well written. It was, I don't want to say entertaining. It was interesting enough that like you knew what was going to happen, but you still wanted to read of how they got there and stuff, even though the description pretty much, and you knew the whole time. I mean, the diagnosis itself is pretty short-lived. And then I think about it a lot with my patients. And not that I have patients with ALS, but like Parkinson's, for some reason, I run into Parkinson's quite a bit, and there's similarities with like water and swallowing and stuff like that. So, I mean, I do think about it quite a bit, and I have a lot of dementia patients, and it kind of just gives you a perspective to look at from like the people who have to make these decisions and people who know that they have something and how hard that is to deal with. But with Liz, it's so sad. I don't want to read it again. I don't like being sad. I don't, it's not something I would recommend to just anybody. And I would definitely disclose that like you're going to use one of your cries.
True. Andrea?
Okay, I totally picked this rating before Liz said her rating, so you can't judge me for being the same as Liz. B minus. Of course.
You're so smart.
You guys are gonna have to start writing them on like whiteboards before and showing, so we know you're not like.
This is like the only one I've got too busy to fill out my review book for too, and I'm like, damn it, Madeline's gonna be like, no way, way.
I don't believe it. But why a B minus? You said.
Because I liked how it was written, and I found their relationships intriguing. Like I wanted to find out how they got into such a bad place even before he had ALS. And I was curious how they were going to come out of this in the end. Like, are they going to forgive each other? Blah, blah, blah. So I thought their relationship was slightly intriguing. And the writing was really, really good. But yes, like everyone said, super sad.
It's interesting. What's that word? Okay, she's not like she didn't go to English school. That sounds so, I don't know what it's called. She didn't major in English. She's a neuroscientist, which I think is really cool because her writing is so well for not having an English background.
What was your rating, Madeline?
So I'm gonna go with a solid B. I'm a little torn because it is the second time I've read it, so obviously it's pretty good to me. I think I really respect the fact of how she portrays diseases, like not in this book, but in all the ones she's written, to really help someone who doesn't have that understand what it's like to go through that. As like an OT previously, I thought it was really helpful to have just some sort of inclination of what my patients were going through. And I do think that there was multiple levels to the story, which I also liked.
Yeah. We read another one like before Andrea and Kelly joined book club. Because I guess, so this author writes like a lot of books about diseases, right? Like it's a story, but somebody in the book has like a disease and it's them and their family like processing and going through everything. So we did Still Alice. That was it, right? For early onset Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was super sad too. But what other books has she written? Like about what other like diseases?
So she wrote Love Anthony, which is about autism. And then she also wrote Inside the O'Briens, which is about Huntington's disease. And there's one more. Still Alice, Every Note Played, Inside the O'Briens. She just came out with a new one called Remember. It's not the same premise. It's not really a story. It's more so about memory and like why and how you remember things or why you don't. And so I have that one I'm going to read next because I have a terrible memory. I can't remember the other one.
Of course not.
Shocking.
Oh shoot! I kind of walked in. I'm gonna go check. I have it on my bookshelf.
Should we get her a consult with somebody?
Yeah, we should. We probably should.
Submit this video as proof. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, these are my pajamas. It's called Left Neglected. It's really good, and I can't believe I didn't remember it, but it's about someone who has a stroke.
I have a like love-hate with these books. They're super interesting. You get a perspective, and I like the doctors in this particular book that come in and they just throw it out on the table because they've dealt with it so many times, and they're like, you need to make this decision by this day, blah 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 blah. And then, but now, like after reading it, now every time something happens, I'm like, is this ALS? Like, is this? And I think about it a lot. If a patient does something, I'm like, is this ALS? Like, it's in my head now. I don't think I would do well reading the memory books because that's just like, that happens to a lot of people, whereas ALS is a little more rare.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I mean, I'm bound to get something. I don't want to read a book about it and then it happened to me and be like, shit.
Should we do spoilers? Because I want to talk about Karina and Richard.
Yes. Okay, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Who's your least favorite character?
Arena.
Karina was freaking terrible. I didn't pick up on that the first time I read it. Not at all, as much as the second time, of like how selfish she was in certain situations.
But
She's
in like
such-
different way. It's so weird. She's horrible during their marriage, right? Like what I mean, it's spoilers,
Really
right?
bad.
Like pretending to have like a fertility problem and do like pretending to try to get pregnant for 15 years is just
10
like
years.
this 10 years. It's disgusting to me.
Mhm.
Like I can't believe it. But then he's like died from ALS and she like brings him into like her home and cares for him, even though it's in like a weird standoffish way. But like it's like so conflicting.
Okay, so this horrible thing is happening to, in her head, this horrible person. It's this horrible situation. So she's like, I'm gonna be a real big wet blanket about this and make it even worse. Like you could have just been like, all right, let's embrace this weird situation. I'm taking care of my ex-husband in a way that no one plans on because it's so rare with a disease I know nothing about. But yeah, let's be a real stick in the mud. It'll be fun.
Like she wouldn't
Like,
even watch movies with him.
Yeah,
Like,
she
no,
like
she,
did the bare minimum.
Mhm.
Nothing nurturing,
And then she,
nothing
like-
helpful.
She wanted a pat on the back of like, I took him in and like, and did the bare minimum. You might as well just left him outside.
Yeah. One of the things that frustrated me the most in the beginning of the book was that they didn't tell Grace. Like her dad
Mhm.
literally got a death sentence and Karina knew, Richard knew, and they waited months when he only had months to live to tell her, which I thought was so cowardly.
Yeah.
I
And
get
it robbed her of time with her dad, which was so frustrating.
I get Karina being like, you should be the one to tell her and giving him like a little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to realize that he is struggling so hard with this that there isn't time for him to cope with it, deal with it, and then decide to tell her. So you should probably just like take that yourself. Plus, he asked her to, and she was like, no,
Mhm.
I'm not helping you.
It's like only hurting their daughter then, right? Like Karina's decisions like hurt both of them, like hurt their daughter. And it's
Yes.
weird.
Yeah. I
And
don't know.
the whole, like, just the communication issues throughout the entire thing, I thought were so frustrating. Like, I don't know. Probably because I'm a more of a blunt person and not passive aggressive like Karina, that was really frustrating to read. Where I'm like, just freaking say you're sorry or get over it. Stop dwelling on it. Holy.
I mean, this was years ago. Like, how do you even remember what happened? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then, like, the fertility thing. Like, Jesus, could you have, like, picked a more sensitive, like, you little shit.
The spoiler alert to anyone watching this, Richard wanted a second child and Karina did not. She just wanted to have Grace and be done. So Richard thought that they were going to fertility doctors, but the whole time,
He was going.
10 years, she actually had birth control, the
IUD.
IUD. So that's why they weren't getting pregnant. And she let him believe this for 10 years.
And he was going to the doctor's appointments and like doing the things that the men do at those. And she was pretending
Claiming.
like she had doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
So
And
awful.
So awful.
Oh, and then like at some point though, like before he finds out after 10 years. But even before that, like while they're doing all that, he starts cheating on her.
Yeah. It was so, like, everything about their marriage was just fucked.
Man, she is just so like cold. Like if she were a spice, she would be flour. She was a wet blanket that was on a stick in the mud. Like, oh, all of it. She was just bleh.
Well, and then the whole jazz thing. Like, if you want to play jazz, just fucking play jazz. Like,
She reminds me of the girl or boy, it doesn't matter. The people on Facebook that are like, pray for me, such a horrible day, blah, blah, blah. And then somebody's like, what happened? And they're like, I don't want to talk about it on Facebook. That's Karina.
that annoys me so much.
She's like, I want to play jazz. I miss the scene. I need to go out and live my life. And then somebody's like, hey, you want to play jazz and live the scene and go out and live your life? Come with me this weekend. She's like, no.
Can't. My daughter's in college across the country. I can't go this weekend.
I have a house. Like, what? I have to walk on Wednesdays only. Like, God.
Richard was no saint either.
No.
But it was not as bad, I feel like.
No,
I feel like he had remorse, and I don't feel like really ever did.
How about when he's literally in the hospital on his deathbed making the decision, and she goes home, leaves him there, comes back and gets coffee and hopes that it takes longer so that she doesn't have to go back in the room.
He's like deciding if he's gonna like go on hospice or get a surgery to try to survive longer. And then he decides that he wants to go home and die. And what's the first thing Karina says?
Thank you.
God.
Thank you.
Dude,
How
selfish.
Thank you for dying. Like, even if you thought it, you don't say it like ever. Like ever. But Karina's like, I'm gonna say this. I won't say that I don't want another kid or I don't want to move out of Boston or wherever they moved from, but I will say thank you for dying. Like, that's what you choose to say? Mm-hmm. She probably would have still been married if she chose to say a couple more things at some point in her life.
What about when she's, maybe it's, oh, I'm blanking. Who gets turned on by the piano key?
Her. That's her. When she goes to that,
jazz.
She goes out with a bunch of kids for that summer vacation thing.
Yeah, she
say it, Madeline. Explain.
Well, she gets like turned on by hearing jazz, like sexually turned on, and it's just the funniest thing to read. We all were texting about it after, like, has anyone else been turned on by piano keys before? Is that normal?
Like, I get everyone has their thing or whatever, but like, okay, so Karina, who can't like express anything ever, goes to one concert and is all of a sudden like what?
With a bunch of kids.
Like, what a weird personality to have. Like, what a weird trait.
Right. And to Andrew's point, like, she's this like 40-year-old, right? She's sitting next to, yeah, she's the chaperone sitting next to the college students, and she's like having an experience. Like,
An experience.
An experience. I don't know.
I'm never calling it anything other than that ever.
She's having a personal experience with the music. At first, like, for the longest time, I thought it was the piano player, because she's like, he's my age. She's like, blah, blah, blah. And then she's like getting like turned on, right? And then it's like, oh no, it's like the music and the piano. It's not the piano player.
She's gonna be on like My Strange Addiction.
I didn't play the piano for a week. I was too afraid.
Too afraid to have a personal experience.
Personal experiences. Do you know what it reminds me of? You guys watch The Office, don't you?
Yeah.
When they complain about Phyllis reading 50 Shades of Grey in the office, like at her desk, and like making noises. Karina's like listening to jazz on her like headphones.
Yeah. No,
Well, you have it.
it's good though.
Every Note Played by Lisa Genova. Read it if you want to cry a little bit.